And what I was saying before I got cut off earlier, it's like I always have difficulty in getting the agenda, like the actual resolutions for, for caucus or for common council. I'm not sure if I'm going somewhere different.
When you go to the calendar, do you see the little word agenda down there?
Calendar where?
At the bottom of the city's website.
Yeah, I've seen that before, the agenda, yes.
And if you click on that button, that agenda button, usually it'll bring you that, the agenda and all those materials. But I know what you mean. Sometimes it doesn't seem like it's there.
So I'm going to the website right now. So I'm in calendar.
Just so you know, Rennie, you are live streaming.
Thank you.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take a look for it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining the City of Kingston's Common Council at our caucus meeting. Today is April the 5th, 2021. Before we begin, we would like to go over a few guidelines to help us navigate the system as efficiently and respectfully as possible. We ask that members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. The moderator for tonight is Elissa Tinty, our city clerk, and she reserves the right to mute anyone who unmutes themselves. Council members and city staff will control their own mute buttons. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you are not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. If a council member or staff wishes to speak, they will raise their hand. I will call on members by stating their name clearly for our audio listeners. All of our meetings are recorded. Both video and written transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city's website. Although we will not have public speaking tonight, you can sign up to speak at our monthly council meetings. Please email Elissa Tinty to sign up by noon the day of the meeting, or you can submit written comment for the record by the same deadline. The email address is emtinty@kingston-ny.gov. You can also drop comments off at the drop box located outside the side door of City Hall. Note that we have our next Common Council meeting tomorrow, so this midday deadline is tomorrow at midday. We also encourage you to reach out to committee chairs or your ward's representative at any time. As I noted, Clerk Elissa Tinty is the moderator for today's meeting. She has the right to lock and pause the meeting to eject anyone who has behaved inappropriately. Last of all, we have with us tonight all the members of our Common Council. We've got Rita Worthington. I'm just going by the order of boxes here. Jeffrey Morrell, Michelle Hirsch, Don Tollerman, Steve Shabbat, Patrick O'Reilly, Tony Davis, and Doug Coop. We also have city staff, Elissa Tinty, Corp Counsel, Kevin Bryant, our comptroller, John Toohey, and we have our esteemed guest, Noah Nadelson of Munistat Services. So tonight, as I noted, our first order of business is to, I'm sorry, let me finish the spiel here. Thank you for your patience during these difficult times. And on behalf of the Common Council, I wish you and your family good health. I now call this meeting to order at 7:09 p.m. So our first order of business is the report on our debt. John Toohey and Noah Nadelson, welcome to you both. And thank you for being here to let us know where we stand.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to first just thank you, Rennie, for the opportunity to present this debt profile to the Common Council. I want to thank Noah Nadelson and Munistat Services for their hard work. I know Noah's put a lot of time into this presentation. We work back and forth on it, and I appreciate his willingness to attend this. To give you some background, Munistat Services provides service to the city for a number of years. Noah is the person in the firm that I consult with on all of our borrowings. We work on debt planning and issuance together. Munistat handles our statutory filings. We have annual filings that are required as part of our debt issuances. His firm handles that. They also bid out all of our debt and all the associated work that comes with that. So they handle a lot, and they've been a great firm to work with. And once again, this is an opportunity just to speak to the Common Council to give you an overview of our debt profile, where the city stands in relation to our peers, other municipalities throughout the state, in relation to key market metrics. And I thought it would be a pertinent time to talk about this. So from this point on, I'll hand over to Noah, and I'm here to help answer any questions.
If I could just very quickly note that Alderwoman at Large Andrea Schott has joined us. So thank you. Welcome, Noah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to see everybody, and I wish I was able to get up there and sit with you. I miss those days. But I've been coming to the city for a long time. I live in an old home that I've been painfully restoring for many years. So I think I've been going to stay in the junk man for at least 20 years now. And so, I have some old friends, and it really is a gem. It's become a destination. It's really admirable, and I brought my family up there, and we spend the day up there. And I'm from Long Island. I live on Long Island, but we do, and that was a good introduction, John. But it's all the issuance of debt really in the state of New York. We also have an office in Connecticut, but we do half of the state of Connecticut as well. Totally different dynamic in Connecticut, but the firm was founded in the 70s, based really out of New York, and we've added a Connecticut presence recently. But it's everywhere from the eastern end, Long Island, to all the way up to the city of Plattsburgh. And so, we work together with bond counsel. Those are the attorneys that help draft the resolutions, and then we are on the finance guys. And so one of the things that we also do is help with the rating agent, the rating agency presentations and the rating calls. And so we thought, and so John and I have been working on this and talking about it for a while. And we, it's just time to just do something more comprehensive. It's expected. There's a commitment to excellence that the city is, I think that it should be expected of the city to do this now. And I think it reflects well when we do our rating presentations. And it happens once every, say, 3 years or so. We'll make a presentation to Standard & Poor's when it's time to go to bonds. And so, this is just the first step. And we thought it'd be helpful to show where we are right now. So if I can, it says my host has disabled the screen sharing. I don't know, do you see my presentation or can you let me share it?
Yulissa, can you make that?
I'm gonna have to make you a co-host because I don't know how to screen share. Okay, just give me 1 minute.
Sure. Okay. So I'll just kind of go through the introduction anyway. But so again, this is just the first step. It really is. I mean, ultimately, and hopefully you'll have us back, to present a more comprehensive multi-year capital improvement plan, and that's really the goal, right? To adopt something similar to this. But shows out and projects out the capital projects that the city is contemplating over the next, say 3 to 5 years. I mean, I think that the 3 to 5 is that standard. I think 3 is more appropriate. 5 years, anything can happen really. So, but at 3 years, I think that we should be able to project out, 3 years. And so why do we issue? And why do we issue debt, right? I mean, first of all, we don't have all the money, right? There's a couple of fundamental reasons. It's we don't have all the money in our fund balance or in the bank to just pay for things. Although the city can pay for things as they go, and it's also to spread the cost, right, over the community. Residents moving in and out of the city should all kind of spread the cost over the life of the asset. And some of the longer term assets, 20, 30, 40-year assets, water, sewer projects, should be financed over a longer period of time. This is just a coincidence. We came up with this idea prior to our federal government coming up with their infrastructure plan. But 75% of infrastructure is done at the local level. And so that's why there's this big cry at the federal government saying, come on, we need a little bit of help here. We have roads and bridges and dams, and we have all this work, but historically 75% of the projects have been done at the local level. And if we're not willing to do it, then who is going to do it? So that's why, unfortunately, it all comes down on us. That was actually the first slide I just walked you through. Am I able to share yet? Oh, here we go. Let's see. What do we see? Do we see the?
Got it. Yep.
Okay.
Debt profile.
Okay. Okay. So that's what I just basically walked you through. Just give me 1 second. Did I go forward once? Are you on the second slide now?
It's the introduction slide
Yeah,
that's got the 75% figure in the
Okay.
third paragraph.
Okay, good. All right, so that's basically what I just walked you through, but I think you also have a copy of this. So, some of this information, I expect, if there's any follow-up, we're more than happy to, and I expect that there will be some follow-up. So I don't expect you to absorb everything on here tonight, but like I said, we can always follow up. So the next one is, where are we now? And how do we determine, the appropriate level of debt? And it's subjective. I don't know that there's, if you Google it and go look through different, states and counties, and, they're all different methods and to help determine, the appropriate level of debt. But I don't know that again, it's subjective and it's different depending on the circumstances. But I think I want to put this in perspective. I mean, what we do, not to minimize what we do, but what we do and debt, and that's really what we help the city with, is the core of what we do is help manage your debt. And when it comes to ratings, it only makes up about 10% of the city's bond rating. And so when it comes to this, just an FYI, I mean, the city's bond rating or ratings in general, 30 to 40% is based on the economy and the tax base, 30 to 40% on financial and operating results, 10% in debt, and 10% in management. And debt service, again, putting into perspective. So debt service, the principal and interest payments that are the annual principal and interest payments that the city makes on its debt only makes up a lot less than 10% of the budget. So although it's a very, very important part of the budget, and it helps let us get capital projects done, and it really is a relatively small part of what the city does. And the third bullet there, from a rating agency perspective, the focus is on property tax supported debt. So and you'll see this as we go on here, but we basically broke it down into general fund, water, and sewer. Water and sewer debt is supported by other revenues, user fees, right? Water bills and sewer bills, right? Not property taxes. If you look at the budget, it's all user fund, what we call departmental income, not property taxes. So when it comes to the municipal bond world and the rating agency world and the investor world, they're what's considered double barrel bonds. So they're ultimately, everything that the city does is backed by property taxes, but there's another source of revenues that cover the debt for water and sewer. So therefore, again, when it comes to the rating agencies, and let me just take a step back, there aren't too many, again, the state has its own kind of guidelines, but they really punt. They don't really necessarily want to dictate the amount of debt. They don't they kind of give a range. So what we do is we look to other investors and other, market, and the rating agencies are the good kind of third party unbiased reference for us. And so that's why I keep, and so they publish guidelines. So that's kind of what we lean on to to help, articulate what the appropriate levels are. And I should say before I get in there, I should say, if anybody wants to interrupt, I love interruptions. So don't feel free. Okay, so here we get a little nerdy here. So there are key market metrics, and you'll see how we develop this over time. But you don't have to really absorb it. We'll elaborate this more as we go on. So net debt as a percentage of the revenues should be in the range of 30 to 60% of the budget. I was told that the host muted me. So anyway, I think I'm back. Am I back? Okay. Debt service as a percentage of the budget should be, in a range of 8 to 15%. Debt should be amortized at a rate by which 65% of the principal is paid off within 10 years. And then net debt, the amount of debt as a percentage of the market value should be below 3%. So I'll tell you what that all means. Let's put this into real numbers. Okay. So what we did here is, and often we get this question: how do we compare? What does the city of Auburn have? What does Beacon have? What does Newburgh have? What do these other places? How much debt do they have? I don't want to say that it's meaningless, but we have no idea what's. And I know for a fact that some of these places have some major infrastructure needs. Right? This is the amount of debt. And that first column to the left is the amount of debt in millions total, year ending 19. There's all this available. The numbers aren't available for year ending 20 yet. Financial year ending 20 hasn't exactly been wrapped up yet. So this is as of 19, but it hasn't changed all that much in your case either. So that's the amount of debt in millions. And so what we did is we took, and it goes on for 2 pages. I'll flip back and forth. Okay, so back to the first one though. So we basically said, okay, let's compare it by similar populated cities. So right in that 20 to 30,000 population range. So the next column is the estimated debt per capita. So in other words, that's debt divided by the population. And you see where you stand. Let's just focus on that column for a second. And then the next page, there's 17 cities here. You're about eighth lowest. So right in the middle of the pack. The next column, I'm going back and forth. The next column is full taxable valuation. So that's the market value. And again, this is a little dated. The city, as a lot of places, experienced significant increase in market values. But that's the market value of all the taxable properties within the city. And so take that divided by the debt, and you have your percentage of full value. That was one of the metrics that we were talking about. So net debt should be below 3%. Should be, these are not hard and fast rules by any means. Now, keep in mind, it's net debt. This is the total debt. The 43 million is total debt. That includes water and sewer. Just to give you an idea, general fund debt, which would be net debt, is only 18 million. It's going to be, less than half of, 1.5%. And on that, relative to the other cities, you're fifth lowest. Now, again, this doesn't, I don't know what one would consider or what you would consider a good comparison. But you can go down that list and see how you do compare. But some of these, I wouldn't say apples to apples, but we try to give you an idea. Anyway, moving on.
I have a question.
Yes, sure.
you explain net debt as a percent? One of your points is net debt as a percent of revenues in the range of 30 to 60%. Can you please explain that?
Yeah, that's coming.
That's
If I
what?
could, can I hold that one until because I do have a slide dedicated to that.
Of course.
Okay. Okay. So this is the breakdown of the debt. And this is not a long presentation. I'll be done in 10 minutes. This is the breakdown of the debt. General, water, and sewer. And when we talk about net debt, we talk about general fund only. Because again, water and sewer are supported by other sources of revenues, not property taxes. This is the trend of general fund debt. Principal amount outstanding. Steady. That's not big changes in my world. This are the debt service requirements. So this is the outstanding debt, principal, interest total. This is what it looks like. This is what that $18.7 million looks like. You pay approximately right now, as it stands, about 1.8 million in principal, a few $100,000 in interest, about $2 million a year. This is a snapshot in time. This is what is outstanding right now. Doesn't contemplate anything else that we're could be borrowing this year, the next year, and the next. That's the next step. Sewer, also very steady. Similar debt service requirements on sewer. I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but basically are at $1.5 million a year on sewer. Water is a different story. Cooper Lake Dam. And that's only half the project. As we know, that's a significant project. But other than that, again, steady. Moving on. Okay, this is to answer your question. So net debt as a percentage of budget revenue. So the budget is $43 million in general fund, and we're just going to focus on the general fund here now. The general fund is a $43 million budget. The debt of 18 million as a percentage of the budget is 43%. So 18 divided by 43. So again, these guidelines, which again, it makes up 10% of the rating, right? So it's not, that you double your debt, it's not gonna, it probably wouldn't change the rating. Everything's got its own little weighting. But again, this is a positive. This is the type of stuff we tell the rating agencies. Look where we are. We're right in that range. In fact, the low end of the range. The debt service as a percentage of the expenses should be in the range of 8 to, right? So that $2.1 million that we're paying in principal and interest payments as a percentage of the budget is less than 5%. And I probably, again, these are guidelines as the rating agencies look at it.
And once again, Noah, on this one here, we're actually significantly below the key market metric in a good way.
Yes.
So, and just to clarify, I know you touched on it, the debt service is actually in the budget. These are the budgeted principal and interest payments on bonds and bands, which are the short-term notes. That's all in our city budget.
Right. That was the other thing. So how fast do you pay it down? Let me just go back a few slides here. How fast do you pay this down? This is the general fund. So do you guys see my cursor too? Oh no. You do? Okay. So how fast do you pay this off? Within the first 10 years. So basically it's the amount that's paid off within the first 10 years. That's what That's what that, the amortization of principal means, going back to this. So they like to see you pay at least 65% of principal within the first 10 years. So, right, again, it's net debt excludes the debt for water and sewer. But if you look at general and general fund is at 68%, sewer a little faster, and water slow. But one of the things, and Schulteis, right? We were on a call. A lot of your debt has been financed through Environmental Facilities Corp, which is a state agency that subsidizes some of the interest on the bonds. So you go finance through EFC, and they use some money to offset. Recently, we were on a call, and they offered 0% financing for 30 years. Now, if they're gonna offer you 0% over 30 years, you don't pay it back fast. You just, you can say, well, we want to finance over 20 years. You wouldn't do that. You finance it over the longest period of time. If someone's not going to charge you interest, you take as long as you possibly can to pay it back. And so, again, these water and sewer projects generally have a 30 to 40 year life. And so therefore we amortize those slower. And that just makes more sense to do. Okay. So, maybe a little bit of a summary here. And I think this is the first couple, first sentence there. There was a time when the city used to have to finance or borrow for cash flow purposes. In other words, you collect taxes in the beginning of the year, or state aid, or and it would run out because we didn't have enough fund balance. And so we'd have to borrow money in a short period of time just to get through the year. That's a real sign of stress. We also used to amortize the pension contributions, which was another sign of stress. But thankfully we paid all of those debts off. And so the point is here, when it comes to the rating agencies, that there's basically three levels: strong, adequate, which is like the standard, and then weak. So by those metrics, the rating agency would, or Standard & Poor's would consider this debt profile strong. I like that trend, those trend charts, because as we know, things just cost a whole lot more than they used to. And the city's been able to kind of keep that steady trend, even though the cost of paving roads or the cost of drainage improvements and streetscapes and these types of things cost more. And so how do we do that? We wind up basically not borrowing not too much more than we pay down in a given year. That's what we've been able to do. And it's not like we have a formal policy to do such a thing, but that's how we've been able to do it. So in spite of cost increasing, the debt has remained relatively stable. Sorry. So again, during the course of this year, we're going to be working with the city to draft a more comprehensive capital improvement plan. Something, and that it doesn't have to be fancy, and it's not going to be fancy. It's just basically a list of projects that are on our horizon, or not necessarily needs, wants, everything. Everything, we throw it all out there so we can really see what's ahead of us, and that'll help us make more informed decision as to what we move forward with. And again, I think the most important part is we're not committing to financing anything, right? Because this is just, it's an inventory of the needs going forward, and that'll help us prioritize. But again, when it comes, now it seems like there's going to be some money available. The city has a whole lot of momentum. I think I encourage all of you to go away for 6 months and then come back, and then go away for another 6 months and then come back, and see. I don't know that you realize what it's like, or what has. I guess you do, but I'm the same way in my home. I live, and it I don't know. I know you appreciate it, but I don't know but I appreciate it more, what has happened over the past, 10, 15 years in that city. It really is incredible. And so, that came from a willingness to do certain things, right? Like I said, that list of projects, that list of cities out there, I know that there are specific needs there that everybody kind of throws up their hands and says, wow, this is too much, but the willingness, and it's paying itself off. And I think you guys, you see it. But when it comes down to it, there's always going to be challenges, and there are always going to be challenges. And you're gonna have to prioritize it. It's public safety first, and then and then quality of life. And we try to make those things kind of go hand in hand. So I think that's it for me.
Great, thank you, Noah. That was really informative. Questions, comments? John Tollerman?
I know, thanks very much. That was interesting. And I sense that it was, much of it was over the head of all of us, because it's really stuff that we don't deal with every day at all. Anyway, I'm gonna ask I have a few questions. My big picture question is, Joe Biden spending $3 million on infrastructure, $2 trillion on infrastructure, proposed. There's this economic theory that pile up debt and, it's not a taboo anymore. And so, that's not how my life works. If I have debt, I got to pay it back. But, so does that concept of piling on debt and it not mattering as much, does that translate to the municipal level? Like they calculate in the federal level?
So no, because we can't print money. The city can't print money. I mean, you can just raise taxes, right? I mean, that's your way of printing money, but that doesn't work, right? I mean, when nobody really wants to do that. No, there's a couple of things on here. First of all, these are, the city's been around 400 years, right? It's going to be another 400. And so when we look at our own personal, I hear you, my life doesn't work. I wish I can pay off my house tomorrow. I don't like debt at all. It just so happens that's what I do for a living. But the point is, there is no time horizon. We don't look and say, okay, I'd like to retire. I like to snowbird. I like to do, we have a time horizon personally, but the city doesn't have a time horizon. All the decisions that we make are going to have an everlasting legacy, and we're developing it, and we're creating this for the next 400 years. Yeah. So you have to look at debt a little bit differently. You're always going to have debt, not like you or I hopefully will be out of debt someday. But the city will always have debt, and it's going to be a necessary component. The other thing with just spending. I mean, to the extent that it creates, you can't just, some of that they talk about that modern monetary theory. To the extent that it creates jobs, and it makes us more efficient, those types of things like infrastructure spending is a good thing, right? That's going to, and you've seen it too, and the city has seen it too. It's infrastructure spending that has made the city be able to expand, so that these restaurants can survive and they can, I mean, that's, so that type of spending, sure, is necessary, and you see results from it.
Follow-up question is, so, when we are faced with a big expenditure, John Toohey will advise us whether we should go to the general fund for an expenditure, or to, bond it out, and I think in my experience in the council, we've always just pretty much followed his advice. But I guess how do we look at that critically? How do we know whether it's really the right thing to? I mean, we listen to John, and John, I think, is usually right, and maybe he's always right. I don't know, but I wish I had more tools to make that choice of whether to go to the general fund. I mean, we have, for instance, right now we have over $7 million in that general fund. What does that do we need to keep that balance? Should we be giving some of that back to our taxpayers? If it's excessive, should the taxpayers receive some of that money back? Should we use it for some of our infrastructure projects instead of bonding for infrastructure projects? It's like hard for us laymen who don't deal with finance to make these decisions.
Yeah. And I'm first of all, John's always right. Just so everybody knows. Now I'm not just saying this because he's staring at me too, but it's that's what you want in a controller. I mean, there's, and I'm not just saying this, but look around, go visit some of your peers. There's, John really is as good as it gets. And I know he's very super conservative by nature, and he's always worried, and it drives me crazy too. I think what it's such a loaded question, right? But that's what you have the controller for, right? Is to help, and so his job is to kind of, inform and kind of scare you a little bit, I think, and keep you under control. And your job is to really question it. And so that's why this is kind of like the step, anything. Look, the fact is, and that's why this is a fun meeting tonight, because the fact is that the city is in fine shape. I mean, financially, from a debt perspective, and it doesn't happen by accident. Part of the, yeah, is that you, John? Is that, yeah? He's.
I just want to chime in too on this. A lot of times, a lot of these decisions are, when the council has, we talk about, what are we going to do with the fund balance at the end of the year, or how to finance something. A lot of these things Noah and I do talk about. In general, we talked about, we spent a lot of time talking about paying off the retirement amortizations, using fund balance for that. In general, we've talked about where we use fund balance for capital, as pay-as-you-go capital. We talked about using it for, and Noah touched on this earlier, to pay off capital that has a low number of, it's amortized over a shorter time frame. Typically, we wouldn't be using fund balance to pay off a 30-year project, because a 30-year project, you want to spread that cost amongst taxpayers over a number of years, because those taxpayers over a number of years would be benefited by that project over the same time frame. So, where we've used fund balance to pay off, to pay for capital or infrastructure, it's typically been shorter term. I think in the past several years, we've used it mainly for equipment, but that's all in consultation generally with Noah. We do try to talk about those things, but there is no hard and fast rule on some of that. It's just, in many cases, we have more than one viable option, that there's pros and cons. And we try to just take the best one that we feel suitable at the time. But, there's always a weighing of the factors, so to speak. And, where I think I need some more input, generally, I'll reach out to Noah or bond counsel, I should add.
Yeah. And so the point is, like I was saying, in terms of putting it into perspective, right? I mean, the debt makes up a small percentage of the budget, right? So as it stands right now, that being said, anything significant, but we've been under control. And one of the things that we do is we only borrow that which we spend. Right. So even though there might be a number of projects authorized, they take some time to get completed. And so, but yeah, if the city is contemplating something significant, and it's going to have an impact, right? Those are going to be the impactful, and that's where we'll, where you can see, what the impact of the budget is, right? So, if the debt service is approximately 2.1 million and you're contemplating a, multi-million-dollar project, we can show you what that impact is. And so there's going to have to be some, decisions, and maybe they have to be deferred. Unfortunately, we can't do it all. So that, like I said, this is just the first step to kind of show you where you are. And then ideally, going forward, we'll put it all on paper and we'll have something comprehensive where we can look at. Again, simple. Trying to keep it simple, a working document.
I have one last question.
Yep.
private activity bonds is a interesting alternative to the bonding that we do. And I've learned a little bit about it. Do you have experience with that, or do you recommend private activity bonds for us in any instance?
Well, I mean, in New York, there really hasn't been anything that is, on a big scale, sure. The Tappan Zee Bridge or something like that. On a big scale, things have kind of, utilized.
Like our water project, which was a big scale for us.
Right. Yes. For us, but I mean, I think you're talking about bringing in other, like private investor type, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, if we introduce, but I think the attorneys really have to sit down and think about the pros and cons though too. I mean, could it work? Sure. But there's a lot of pros and cons from a legal standpoint that have kind of prohibited it. As progressive as we think we are as New York, we're kind of backwards and ultra conservative, which is a good thing, and if you start asking the attorneys the questions, you're going to probably start hearing things that maybe you don't want to hear. And that's like, I don't mean that in a bad way. But you're basically going into business with, private entity. And so be careful who we're working with. But it's definitely something, maybe, for that we can, follow up on, specifically if we have some, if there's some ideas that you're thinking of.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions or comments for Noah? Tony Davis?
Thank you for your information here. I think I just have a follow-up question that Don had, and again, we know John's a rock star, and as you stated, but if we had questions about something though, right? And is there some place that we can go besides John as a comptroller to get those answers? Or I mean, I know John said he talks to you and talks to other people, but if we had a question, and is that something that happens that council members or cities can make a call or just get a question answered?
I think that you came up with specifics, and you wanted to sit down with, and I'd be more than happy to come and spend as much time as you need. Sometimes it just, sometimes these settings are, a little bit difficult to do it, right? But we can, really just open it all up and spend as much time. This is not exactly what I was just going through. It's not exactly bonds 101, right? I'm trying to kind of answer that question of where do we stand? How do you judge it? And then it starts to get, a little bit, it starts to get a little bit much for this type of setting, other than, again, it's not bonds 101. So sometimes it just takes longer, but I know that I will, and I know John would too, spend as much time as you need, to at least, I would just start there. We'd be more than happy to sit down and go through all these things.
And I just want to state, yes, John, anytime I've ever had any questions, he's reached out to me real quick, and and any other questions, as is, if we didn't have a John in the future, or the city didn't have a John, that might not be as conservative or type. It's their mechanism for people to reach out to get answers somewhere else.
Yeah. And I prefer, it goes through John, really. It just makes my life easier. I just think it's more appropriate way to do it. But, and not to simplify it either, but it is, what I do is not so, profound. I mean, we borrow money, we pay it back, right? You have to decide what projects we deem worthy. And then, we can show you the impact of all these decisions. And that's pretty much what it is. But that's why you come back to the numbers. The numbers bear it out, and the city is doing fine. And some of these decisions are just, bigger, more collaborative decisions that have to be done, amongst the council, in conjunction with John. I'm just trying to, compile the info and present it, so you try to get a better idea. But hopefully this is just the start of a number of meetings.
Okay. And again,
John?
I appreciate that you've shown these numbers and that people out there who are listening. And because, as all the people, and, we sometimes get stops or get phone calls, and we're putting the city, we're destroying the city. And I'm glad that you're here to show the numbers and that the city is, doing good and positive. Thank you.
John Tui?
Thank you. Tony and Don, I mean, certainly if you ever want to reach out and, even if you want me to pull Noah into a conversation, I'd be more than happy to set up a meeting through Zoom for, a group of us. I know we have the open meetings law, but we could keep it small enough maybe. But in any event, a lot of the decisions that we have to make are somewhat subjective, right? I mean, there's a lot of times where we talk about, funding projects or how are we going to pay for something? There's a number of options, right? Every option comes with pros and it comes with cons. Over my time here, I've learned, I evaluate the pros and cons and, give you what I think is the appropriate choice, but it doesn't mean that another option is not viable as well. Maybe just in my history and my knowledge, I think one might be more preferable than the other. But, it's those types of things that we can talk about and discuss the pros and cons of every option and, any other thoughts anyone else has, because there's usually more than one way to get somewhere. Doesn't mean there's always just one right answer. Yeah.
Thank you, John. Other questions, comments? Anything else? Any debt-related issues you want to bring up? All right, then it looks like we've gotten some good information here. Noah, we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight and give us this overview. We have always really appreciated working with John, and it's glad that you're giving us just more information to help us understand how it all works. So thanks again. We appreciate it. We look forward to speaking with you again in the future.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, everyone.
All right.
Have a good evening.
All right, we can now move to the regular business of our caucus meeting here.
Hey, Rennie?
Yes, sir.
If I can make a comment for all of us here, that this is an instance of great news that we should let the public know somehow, or the mayor. It's a great opportunity to say, hey, we're doing something right. We're making progress. And, just to let people know about the good stuff too.
And I echo that with Don. And Don, that's how, that's what I was saying before. We, many times we don't always get positive phone calls or positive feedback. And so it would be good to let the city know in somehow form and press release a letter or something, and that, the city, the city's in a positive place right now, and a good place. And compared to many other cities in the state.
Sure, we can talk about putting together a press release and try to get that out in the next day or two. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Anybody else want to help me? Let me know. Send me a text or an email, and we'll take this information and put together something to let folks know the good news. Happy to do that. All right. Thanks for the idea there. Okay, so is everybody ready here to move into the regular order of business, looking at the legislation that's on the docket for tomorrow night? All right, resolution 44. This is a budget transfer, the Shade Tree account. This is no financial impact, as I recall. I'm gonna have to move 3 windows here. Any questions, any concerns about this one? This is the result of an insurance settlement. All right, hearing no concerns, consider that one good. Number 45, this is a budgetary transfer in the Department of Public Works to cover the cost of an employee's retirement. This has a budget implication of $10,770,000 to go to retirement accumulation. We've been assured by John that this is okay at this point in terms of our balance. Any questions, concerns here? Everybody good with this one? All right. Number 46 is budgetary transfer, also in Public Works, for $33,000 to cover the cost of another retirement. So this one also has a budget implication of $33,100 from contingency. But this is to show our appreciation of a long-serving employee. Everybody good with this one? Everybody good with this one? All right. Oops. All right, number 47. This is approval of 2020 general fund transfer in the amount of $180,000 to balance accounts. This is from the comptroller. This one has no financial impact. So is everybody good with that one? Number 48, resolution of the Common Council. This is recommending approval for a transfer in the sewer fund in the amount of $68,000. This also has no financial impact. Is everybody good with that one? Number 49, this is from Laws and Rules. This is recommending approval of the New York Stretch Code as attached. Let's see, this is, Jeffrey, you want to give us a brief overview of this?
Sure, thank you, Rennie. We had a presentation by Julie Noble and Mike DeWine from NYSERDA at the Laws and Rules meeting. So this is basically just setting the goals for sustainability and energy efficiency for the city for the future. And this code will, let's see here, it will supersede the New York State Energy Code of 2020. So this is just extending that into the future.
And then, but this is also basically putting us in line to be, New York State is likely to adopt this same code, right? So we're just getting in there, so we're good and prepared. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. We're just getting ahead of the curve, so that when New York State approves it, we're already prepared. We're already there.
Great. Thank you for that. Resolution 50 is about referring a proposal to amend Section 405-34, this Kingston zoning code, to Ulster County Planning Board, Kingston Planning Board, and the city's HLPC. This also is Laws and Rules. Jeffrey?
Yes, thank you. This is to amend the city zoning code to allow for the construction of accessory units. So this will, let me just see here. This will, we're just considering amending the zoning code as it pertains to accessory units to, just one second, I'm just looking at the resolution here. To repeal the date of construction restrictions, to repeal the requirements for floors square footage limits, and to amend the parking requirements so that it makes it more easy to for people to build accessory units in the city.
Great. Any comments? Everybody good with this one? Patrick O'Reilly.
Jeffrey, do you remember this? If we're going to take the square footage units off, do you remember how we were going to decide on what an appropriate square footage would be? Because some rooms, you have to make it big enough for someone to lay down in, right? So what would the square footage be? Do we have that information or no?
If I may jump in for a second, the proposal that we're sending to the county, it's Dan Gartenstein, the proposal that is being sent to the county basically just says that the New York State Building Code with regard to square footage is controlling. And as long as it complies with the New York State Building Code, it is permissible under our code.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay.
Okay.
You satisfied then? All right. If everybody's good with that, we'll move to 51. This is about a budget transfer in the wastewater treatment plant. This is also balancing, so there's no financial impact. Everybody good with this one? All right. Number 52. This is recommending approval for transfers in the mayor's budget. This one has a $150,000 requirement. Which is about COVID spending, which we hope will be reimbursed through FEMA. Any questions here? Comments? Everybody good with this one? Tony Davis? You're muted, Tony.
I'm breaking up here, but what did you say, Rennie, the money was for? Because I don't think I was at this. Did it come out of finance? I don't think I was at finance then with this.
Correct. This came to us. So this one, the issue here, part of it is just a small move for general materials. The other part has to do with money that we've spent for the COVID crisis that the city spent for food and related kind of issues like that, supporting aid groups and so forth.
Okay.
And so the mayor said the monies are pending from FEMA, and that will use that, and that money will be used to reimburse most, if not all, of that $150-something thousand. Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Did you hear me, Rand?
I didn't hear. I heard your question, then I responded. Did you say something else?
Yeah, I caught some of it breaking up, and I just wanted. I said thank you for the information.
Oh yes. Okay. Okay.
Oh man.
So if everybody's good with that one, then we'll move on. Somebody's on the phone, needs to mute. I'm worried you're gonna say something that you want us to hear. Resolution 53. This is budget transfers in the comptroller's office. Also here, no financial impact. Everybody good with this one? Resolution 54, transfers in the sewer fund. This also is a year-end balancing act, so there's zero financial impact on this one. Everybody good with this? All right. 55, transfers in the general fund. So this one is a kind of omnibus collection here, a number of smaller things that John Toohey put together. The crucial thing, though, for us, I think, is that there is no financial impact in these transfers. Everybody good with that one? Oh, I see Rita has gotten kicked off here. So with your forbearance, we'll wait a moment. She just texted. So Rita is trying to get back on. I'm going to, well, we should wait. I'll just note that the next several of these, I'm pretty sure, are all no financial impact. Yeah, so most of these are the product of the special finance meeting that we had on March 31st, where we looked at these requests to transfer in order to close up the books for 2020. Yeah, so most of these through 61 or so are going to be zero financial impact. Rita is still trying. I'm going to ask if she minds if we continue.
It ran. She might have to listen to it on the phone like I'm doing.
Yeah, she's trying to get on with the phone. Can somebody send her the meeting ID?
I'll text her.
Thank you.
I was just saying, I keep on going in and out too, so I'm listening to it on the phone as well. And so.
Okay, she's okay with us going through all the ones that have zero financial impact. So 56 here is transfers in Department of Public Works. Again, this is balancing the books here, so no financial impact. Everybody good with this one? $57 is transfers in Public Works regarding the sewer fund. Again, zero financial impact. Everybody okay with that one? No, she's still trying. I'm going to say yes. Uh, 58 is resolution of the Common Council recommending approval of transfers in the city clerk's budget. Oh, there's Rita. Welcome back, Rita. So again, no financial impact. Everybody's good with that one, I guess. 59, recommending approval for transfers in the corporation council's budget. This one is to pay for ongoing litigation issues. Kevin Bryant had explained this to us in finance. Does anybody who wasn't there, anybody need to hear anything about this? Are you okay? All right, good. We'll go on then. Resolution 60. This is transfers in the fire department's budget. And this is, again, moving money around with no financial impact. So everybody's good with that one, I'm assuming. 61, transfers in parks and recreation. Right, no financial impact. Everybody good with that one? Resolution 62. This is a little different now. This is authorizing the mayor to submit an application to the New York State Office of Parks and Recreation. This is for a grant, trying for a grant of $35,000 for citywide historic properties survey and to execute all related documents. Everybody good with this one? Again, this has no financial impact. Don Tollerman.
What's the end goal for this? What's the purpose of it?
Well, it's to create a citywide historic properties survey so that we're clear what it is that we've got. This is an important sort of thing to do, you know, in any kind of historic preservation process.
Excuse me, it's also being, it's also a prerequisite for a number of grant opportunities that our historic preservation clerk is looking into. And it's something that's been outstanding with regard to HLPC issues for a number of years. So it's basically filling in a gap that has interfered with preservation efforts.
And how much money is this, even though there's no financial impact?
35,000.
Thank you.
And there's no requirement, there's no match here either, although as Sue Cale explained, there will of course be some administrative work involved with it, but the grant itself does not require a match, if we get it. Okay, so everybody good with that one?
Who's going to be conducting the survey?
That I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that's what the $35,000 is for, is to, Dan, do you know specifically who would do the survey?
Historic preservation folks.
Okay.
The specific one I can't tell you, but obviously it's got to be someone who was qualified, you know, to document and inventory historic properties.
Right, but we're hiring somebody, we're hiring a consultant to do it.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Patrick?
Sure.
Okay. 63 here is reallocating $256,376 of City of Kingston's round 2 fiscal year 2019 CDBG funding. Steve Shabbat, can you give us a little background here?
Yeah, I can give you all the background you want. This is pretty much some, you know, all good news. The 63 and 64, we redeliberated. If everybody remembers, a month or so ago, our deliberations were vetoed by the mayor. Since that time, the mayor submitted his recommendations. A little give and take. We redeliberated again with his recommendations, and we pretty much approved. There was not a big difference, so we approved that, and that was the COVID, the second round of COVID funding. We also, at the same time, we're doing the annual community development block grant funding, which they're all attached after much deliberation. And thank you once again, committee members, older persons who were there helping out, several other people, community development employees. I mean, it was a very, very group-oriented meeting. Once again, nobody dug in their heels, with a lot of give and take. So we arrived at some findings. It was kind of a tough night because we really had to bring the amounts down. We didn't have quite as much money we would have liked to spread around, but we were able to do it. And the good news, when it went to the mayor approved all of our findings. He didn't recommend any changes. So we are done. I don't know, maybe done for all time with COVID block grants. It would be nice to think that's the end of COVID and we're not going to have any more block grants, but you never know. We'll see what happens. So we're done with that phase, and actually we're done with this year's phase of the annual block grants. And it's good news. We gave out a lot of money. It was a good night. Everything is attached. You can look down and see how much we gave out to everybody. I don't have it committed to memory. Sorry about that. But again, I thank the mayor for looking it over, agreeing with everything that we decided, and thank everyone involved. It was very, very.
Great. Thank you, sir. So everybody good with 63 and 64? Everybody good with this allotment of the CDBG grant? All right, good. In that case, we'll move to 65. This is authorizing the mayor to submit an application. Again, this is not requiring any money here. An application to the National Park Service for an underrepresented communities grant for up to $50,000 for early history of African Americans. This is to help study the Pine Street Burial Ground and related issues. So this again is a large amount of money that does not require a match, but we will of course have some administrative services involved. So we're looking at a potential cost there for the interface with the people who do the work of about $3,000. Any comments? Questions? Everybody okay with this one? Oops. There we go. 66, recommending approval of transfers in the police department budget. Again, no financial impact here. Item 67. This is authorizing the mayor to execute any and all necessary documents with Dover Coal as per the attached for the purpose of revising the city's zoning code. Any questions on this one? Everybody okay with this one? Comments? Discussion? Don Tollerman?
So to clarify, Rennie, this would be the go-ahead on the project?
Yes, this is authorizing the mayor to sign the contract and get the process started. Yep. Tony Davis?
Rand, I broke, it froze me again. So can you explain what you were saying?
Yes, I read the resolution, which basically just gives the mayor the go-ahead to sign the contract with Dover Coal to start the process of community engagement and get our crazy zoning code revised in a more simplistic way and all the related benefits from it. You want me to read the exact resolution, Tony?
Yes, if you could.
Okay. to the resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing the mayor to execute any and all necessary documents with Dover Coal as per attached for the purpose of revising the City of Kingston's zoning code. Whereas the zoning code for the City of Kingston has not been updated in over 50 years, and whereas the zoning task force made a final recommendation to hire Dover Coal and partners to create a new form-based zoning code for the City of Kingston with a financial impact of $499,394. Now it's resolved that the Common Council of the City of Kingston authorizes the mayor. This repeats the resolution at the top. Did you get all that, Tony? Tony looks a little frozen.
Yes, I did. I'm froze again, but I was listening to it on my phone. Yes.
Okay. All right.
So again, just one question, one follow-up. Is this zoning going to be for the entire city?
Correct. It covers the entire city. It'll do away with our current old 50-something-year-old zoning code and create a more simple, more user-friendly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Discussion? Okay. The next item is going to be way down here. Hold on a second. Let me clarify too that the two items included, and it says per attached, one is the entire Dover Coal proposal. The other is the letter from Dover Coal clarifying that the vast bulk of the GEIS process that we asked about at Finance will in fact be covered by this contract. So there will not be that significant expense. The host muted me.
Sorry about that.
Was that an editorial mute or?
I was trying to mute Patrick and you were on my screen right next to him. So sorry.
People confuse us all the time. Much to Patrick's chagrin, I'm sure. Tony Davis?
So then again, this clarification here, that addition is going to be in this resolution, or is it a separate resolution for the and what we had gone back to Dover about?
Yeah, it's included. That's the letter that we included from Dover Coal, explicitly stating that that's being taken care of by one of their subcontractors who unfortunately wasn't there the night that Dover Coal presented to us. That's now clarified. Okay. All right.
Hey, Rennie, I couldn't hear your intro there. Could you go over that one again, please?
With you mean about the letter?
Yeah.
Or about, okay. So, at Finance, we had some question about whether the generic environmental impact statement, the cost for that, which can be significant, would be included in this amount that we're looking at, the $499,000. And Dover Coal sent a letter clarifying that it would be covered because one of their subcontractors, that's specifically what they've brought them in to do. So this amount that we're looking at, this is what we're spending, nothing above that. Now, if we decide at some point, that we need some kind of other studies, that would be different. But everything that we need right now is in this contract. Okay? Does that answer your question there, Patrick?
Yeah, that's the environmental impact portion of the zoning will be taken care of, inclusive of the $500,000.
Yes, that's right.
And Rennie, I do have a question. $500,000 does seem like a lot of money Of course, it is a lot of money. What do you think the benefits are going to be that are going to offset that $500,000? I mean, things are running in the city of Kingston. We do have a planning board. We do have a planning department, which we spend a lot of money on. We do have a zoning advisory council that looks at zoning issues and makes decisions on those issues. I know it's not perfect. I know things aren't going perfect. I know our zoning, what I've heard from everyone who deals with our zoning, is that it's antiquated. But our between where's the can you kind of let me know?
Sure.
How's this going to help us?
I think Andrea is wanting to respond to you.
Great, love to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's significant that both the department head, Sue Cahill, and Eric Kitchen, the zoning officer for the city, are both strongly in favor of this and sent us letters to say so, because, oops, sorry, I have a cat jumping. On our resolutions, that pro and con list, which didn't have a title on it, but that is from Sue Cahill and Kyla from the planning department. I'm trying to scroll up to it right now. It's a very long proposal, so I apologize. But simplifying the code is going to help make everything clearer for anybody who wants to come in and build. It makes it clearer for anybody who owns property here. It will help reduce redundancy for some of those the planning board, the zoning board of appeals. And I'm still scrolling, trying to get to it, but I'm sure you've seen that, right? The pro and con list, where it'll save time and money, both the applicant side and the city side. It creates consistency with, all the different zoning areas we have in the city. It will make everything a lot easier to explain to people coming in, people who wanting to do work. It sets up expectations, so we kind of know what we're getting ourselves into. We, as a developer will know what they're getting into. The constituents and taxpayers who are seeing the developers come in will know what they're getting into. It'll be a lot more user-friendly, which right now it's not. I mean, when Dover Cole did the presentation, they were talking about how there would be a lot of visual aids to the zoning code, which right now we don't have any visual aids. So just make a lot of things easier. I don't know if that kind of answers your question, but my main point was just to say that I think it's very significant that Sue Cahill and Eric Kitchen are both in favor of this, as well as Tony Arkalevitz, who's the head of zoning.
Yeah, and remember the zoning task force voted unanimously in favor of the Dover Cole proposal. So there's a lot of support for it. I saw Tony Davis's hand and then Don Tollerman.
I just wanted this one question. And so this is going to be able to, can you guys, I'm froze again.
We hear you.
You can hear me? Okay.
Oh, now we can't hear you.
I'm here. Sorry about that.
Now we can hear you.
So yes. So again, so this is going to clarify, like, if people because some people are saying, oh, this should only be done in uptown, midtown, and around that neighborhood. But this is going to give clarification if people who want to build in a residential neighborhood, and this is going to help let them know what can be built in there, those types of areas as well.
Right. So the basic idea is that one of the reasons, Jeffrey, please chime in if I get this wrong at all, but one of the reasons that the rezoning commission chose Dover Cole was because they do an excellent job of community outreach. So the idea here is to really get the whole community, everybody that wants to be involved, to talk about what Kingston should look like in the future. The advantage there is that we don't follow this one-off process that we've been doing for the past long time. And we've seen a number of projects come and fail because it was not clear to people who came in what we were expecting. We didn't really know. Then you've got these long processes where part of the community is really for something, part of the community is really against something, and we get into these divisive fights. The Almshouse, Kingstonian. The idea of a plan like this is to set the expectations, like it says, and like Andrea mentioned, like it says in the pros section that Sue Cahill put together. We establish what we'd like to see in the future in Kingston. So that way, if a developer comes in and says, hey, I'd like to build a mega mall in the city of Kingston, we can say, it's not here in the zoning code. So, we're not going to spend a huge amount of time going through this. It's not there. The other thing is, of course, that down the road, we see how this works and we can always make adjustments to it. But the crucial thing is it sets an initial foundation so that it's clear to people what we're looking for and what we don't want to see in the city of Kingston. So then, we avoid that one-off fight that we get when new projects are proposed. Don Tollerman or Dan Gartenstein?
Yeah, just to clarify, what Dover Coal is doing is through a community engagement process, they are coming up with a proposed zoning code. Dover Coal is not drafting the county, the city zoning code. They are putting together a proposal. Once that proposal is completed, it has to go through a number of stages to get in front of the legislative body. And then the legislative body either adopts or doesn't adopt the zoning code. That's a common council that is 2 years down the road. Okay, they are putting together a proposal. They are not adopting or drafting a zoning code that can only be done by the legislature. The other benefit that was not articulated in the list that Andrea read was saving the city significant litigation costs that currently result from ambiguities that exist in the code. We end up in court over and over and over again with regard to developments, with regard to violations, with regard to unenforceable terms that currently exist in our code. And if the code is drafted or rewritten in a more concise manner that clarifies this issue, the Office of Corporation Counsel and the city will be involved in significantly less litigation.
Great. So,
hey, Dan, do you have knowledge of this company?
Not at all, no. I mean, I've listened to the presentations. They're a company from Florida. They went through a bidding process. They went through a review by a committee. I was not on the committee. The committee made a decision and, chose them as the best fit.
Don Tollerman, and I think Rita, I saw your hand. Oh, no. Okay. Don Tollerman.
Yeah, so, hearing some of the list that Andrea read and what Dan added, those are important things. Do they add up to worth $500,000? To me, what puts it over the goal line and makes it worthwhile is sort of kind of what you were getting at, Rennie. But I'm seeing that this is a vision for our future. It's like an investment in who we want to be, that the whole community is going to together decide. If you go to, we've all gone, we travel, we maybe go to Charleston or neighborhood in, I don't know, wherever you go, you'll come across a neighborhood and you're like, this is great how they did this with this, the buildings are all set back or they're together, and it makes it feel good to be here. It's deciding who we want to be, what we want to look like. And they also made the points about, why is Kingston the way it is now? For instance, why is Midtown filled with multifamily apartments that are often overcrowded and not ideal living situations? That's a result of the zoning that was put in place. So this is a chance for us to say, well, what do we want Midtown to be? What do we want Uptown to look like? Or is it a place for commerce or to live in? What is the roundup? So it's this visioning in the future of who we want to be that to me makes this, there's the return, there's the real ROI long term. We're going to become a city that's even more special, and it's an intangible, but it's through this whole long public process that will get to this place. And I think it's really going to pay off in the next 50 and 100 years.
And the crucial thing is that community involvement. It will be us saying what it is we want. It's us saying this. Jeffrey?
Thank you, Rennie. And just to add to that, a lot of the overcrowding that exists in Midtown is a result of our current zoning and the fact that it's, a lot of redlining and things like that resulted from it. So the argument I've heard that this should only apply, that we should do something different to only apply to Broadway, the Rundown, and Uptown is that it bypasses those areas that are the most affected by the flaws in our zoning.
Right. So you're saying that this process would
this process would include the whole city, and I think it should.
Great. This is all inclusive. Yeah, Rita.
Yeah, to Jeffrey's point and to Don's point, it's going to make for a more equitable community, because as Jeffrey said, it seems to be that the zoning code that we have now kind of separates Midtown from downtown, from uptown, because of stringent restrictions, whether it be residential, commercial, industrial, what have you. But if we can get to a zoning where it could be more, less segregated, for lack of a better term, I guess, I think that we'll be moving in the right direction, and we would bring more equity to our city, which we need, because we certainly right now can look at our city and different parts of the city and see the differences. So I think this is a good step forward.
Yes, great, thank you. Patrick and Michelle, I saw your hand up.
I passed for the second. Let me think about it, Rennie.
Okay, all right, Michelle. Oh, Michelle.
I want to say that I don't disagree with Sue and with everyone's reasons for doing this and further updating our code and making our city more equitable. I just really have a problem with our being an 8.7 square mile city and this costing $500,000. It's a lot of money for the consultant that's coming up from Florida. I wish that we could have sent out a new RFP and found someone that was closer. I think this was all put together prior to COVID. And while Dover Cole looks to be, like the filet mignon of consultants, I don't know that we need to really be spending that amount of money. That's how I feel, so.
Okay. Patrick, coming back to you, or then Rita.
So this Dover Coal Company is going to give us suggestions on how they think our city should be zoned, correct? And we're saying
after the deep consultative process, right?
After deep consultative process, the wonderful part of it is that we are being told that we're going to be part of the process. Now, how are we going to be part of the process? Let's say I want to be part of the process. I'm one of the people that want to be the process. How am I going to help make decisions? How is Dover Coal, a private entity, going to make me part of that?
They're going to develop. Oh, go ahead, Andrea.
Their proposal, I can't remember the number of them, is this was before COVID hit, and so they said they're going to be very flexible about how we move forward. But they call them charrettes, where they're public meetings based in different areas, and I think it's going to really have to be up to the city, the common council members, to get their wards and get their constituents involved to make sure as many voices as we can get to these, whether or not they're going to be public meetings or they'll be virtual, or in my opinion, hopefully a combination of the both, because even after we get through COVID, I think there's definitely reason to keep doing some virtual. It makes it a lot easier for more people to be involved. So that's where they're going to start, is to have public meetings. And I think it's really going to be important for the Common Council to be as active as possible to make sure that this is successful.
So we're saying that because you're in a public meeting, you had a voice? Because you could say something at a public meeting, you had a voice in this? I mean, really?
Well, what, do you have a different suggestion, Patrick?
No, I mean, it sounds like you're going to allow people to ratify this. The people of the city of Kingston to have a ratification. I mean, it sounds like, wow, this company's really going to do this, and everybody's going to have a voice. When in the end, that's bull. Because unless they can vote on it, they don't really have a voice.
No, the Common Council votes on the actual document, the actual zoning proposals. So that's how the people of Kingston will have their ratification voice in that process. So we can make that as open as possible, we as members or whoever the members of the Common Council are at that time. So the crucial thing here is that Dover Coal goes out into the community. They're not just going to sit up, in the fourth floor of City Hall and ask people to come up there. And they, in their presentation to us, pointed out that actually they've had some really good success with online reaching out, because they're able to reach people who might not have time to travel, might have an issue with healthcare and childcare, for example. So the idea is that they really, if you go online, you can find a number of places where they have talked to people about street design, for example, and they talk to the people who actually use the street and say, what would you like to see here? And then they work with that idea of the actual use rather than imposing something. So if we hired some other company who wasn't really clear on Kingston, they would just say, oh, here's what you normally do, and boom, push it down on us without it being from us, from the people of Kingston. So Rita?
I was just going to go back to Michelle's point, in that, I was worried about the cost of this. I thought, $500,000, that's a lot of money. But then I just started thinking about the long-term effect, and that we have to look at this as an investment for the future. I'm of the mindset now that this will also help with the affordable housing, the housing prices that we have right now, mitigating displacement, things of that nature. And so I'm trying to look at the big picture of this rather than just looking at the here and now and the price tag of all this. I think it's going to pay off. And, by me doing that, I'm on board with this. So, but I do share your concern about the price tag of it.
Michelle Hirsch?
I'm just actually curious, since Jeffrey sat on the task force, was a cost benefit analysis done in any sort of way?
You mean, well, based on the applications that we received, the cost was considered in the decision as well.
But what I mean is a cost benefit analysis of what our current code costs us in litigation or, in various issues versus, what the outcomes could be.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I can find out for you before tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Patrick.
So I'm still a little concerned about this community involvement piece where we're, for zoning. Most people have, as you can tell, most people in the city government can't figure out the zoning and what it does and what it is. So how, I'm kind of like, how is this city? So first, I understand that it's going to be community involvement by suggestion, right, or opinion, or whatever you want to call it. We're gonna collect the opinions of the people, and then we're going to, mill that out, and we're going to come up with something that we think the people of the city of Kingston want. it's not going to be, we're not going to let the people of the city of Kingston vote on this. You're saying the process is that they vote for an alderman and then the alderman votes for that process. Is that correct? The people of the city of Kingston actually don't get a direct vote in any way, shape, or form on this proposal at all. It's just the fact that they voted for an alderman 2 years ago, as Dan Gartenstein said, and now they're voting for this. Is that correct?
That's how the process works. Yeah, I mean, but I suppose we could look at some alternatives if you're interested. Steve Shabbat.
So I'm just saying, it's not, they don't have a direct involvement at all.
Well, in the same way that they don't have direct involvement when we do the budget, you know, I mean, we talk to lots of people about the budget, but it's the Common Council, you know, and that's our duty, is to make those decisions in league, you know, in communication with our constituents.
Well, I just wanted to make that clear, that the people really don't have a direct involvement in the zoning, even though we're going to pay these people $500,000 to ask them their opinions about it. And that's going to be probably a big chunk of the money, them going out and doing that kind of research and stuff for many people that don't have any clue at all about zoning. And many people who work on the city of Kingston are having difficulty even, you know, getting through the zoning. And that's why they want us to change it, right? Because they want us to make it better. They want us to make it easier for themselves. So we're looking at a very complicated subject here. And we're saying that the city of Kingston, the people in the city of Kingston are going to decide this, when actually they probably don't have enough background information to make a decision on this. And I don't have enough background information probably at this point to make a decision on this, and neither does anyone here, probably, unless you're a zoning person, or who understands zoning, you know, or went to school for zoning. None of us really truly understand the whole process. So I'm just a little concerned that we're trying to promote this as the people of Kingston are going to be making the decisions, when really the people of Kingston are not going to make the decisions.
The people of Kingston describe how they want to see the world around them, which gives us a much more flexibility than we've got now. Steve Shabbat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to speak to that myself. I mean, I think, you know, while they might not have a direct say in this, my understanding from listening to the presentations is that this company will listen to everybody and they will put together their proposal based on people's opinions. I don't think they have a case with a plan in yet that they're just going to flop on the table and say, here, we don't care what everybody says. They're going to wait until everybody has a say. And yes, this is a very complex subject, and not everybody is really going to, you know, contribute mightily, shall we say, including myself. I mean, you know, I don't have a background in this, and, you know, maybe that's a good thing. They're going to get some real honest opinions from folks that don't have a background. But, you know, I think that's all going to go into the mix when they make their proposal. You know, what people say, I mean, it's pretty much the same as, you know, people call us all the time and give us opinions on, you know, whether to fix Broadway or whether to put up a stop sign or that. So they're not voting on it. We're voting on it, but certainly I dare say everybody in this room here takes that into consideration. I mean, you listen to your constituents and then you form an opinion. At least that's what I do, and I'm presuming everybody else does. And that's what I believe these folks are going to do. Listen to everybody and then put their proposal in based on that. Maybe not entirely based on what everybody says, but, you know, I'm hoping what they say is true, and, you know, they're going to give some credence to what people say. And also, I just want to make a note. Yes, this is a lot of money, you know, but from my understanding, we don't have to pay this full amount up front. And somebody please correct me if I'm wrong. This is going to be an incremental payment, I believe. And I'm not sure, you know, whether that's spelled out, whether it's based on performance.
Hey, Steve, well, I've said it many times, and I've asked for this many times. I mean, if we're going to tell the people of the city of Kingston that they're truly included in something, then we should let them vote on it. You know, that's being truly included, instead of us keeping the power of voting on, these important subjects. Sometimes we got to turn it over to the people of the city of Kingston. I don't know if this is the case. I don't know if this is a good case for that or not. I have to look into it more. But, we shouldn't be touting that they're going to be, totally involved in this process, when actually you and I both know that that's not the truth.
No, that's unfair, Patrick. That's absolutely unfair. The whole point of this is to create an inclusive process where we reach out as far as possible, get as many people involved as want to be involved. My neighbor may not want to be involved. We're not going to force them to. But that's the whole idea here. And then, so if we go through this process, we get, we go through the charrettes, there's the reaching out. We as the Common Council bring as many people to the process as possible as want to be involved. After we get the final proposal from the consultant, we could do something along the same lines where we have a whole series of open meetings where we go to the wards, we have ward meetings, we have people look over the details and see what they think. We can get feedback at that point. So, we can make this a doubly inclusive process. There's no reason. We want this to be community-wide. That's the crucial thing here, precisely so that we develop a vision for our future that involves the wide swath of people in Kingston, so that we don't keep it in the hands of an old boys network or a group of elites or, people in this party or that party. The idea is to be as inclusive as possible in creating this vision for the future. Jeffrey?
Good. I'm happy for that. I'm happy we're doing that, Rennie. And I hope that is true. And I hope this company can actually pull off something like that. It's a difficult job to do that. It's a difficult job to get a citywide opinions on things. Maybe that's why it's costing so much, because it's going to be a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
Because the people that are going to show up are going to be the people with agendas, the people who have everybody has their own reasons to show up at these meetings. Hopefully they'll be able to use that information, but it's tough to use that information, because of the fact that everyone has their own reasons for being at a certain place. It's not an easy thing. That's all.
Sure, which makes it more incumbent upon us to try to get as many people there as possible. Jeffrey?
Thank you, Rennie. I just wanted to also point out that as part of the legislative process before the council votes on it, there will also be, on top of the outreach that the consultant is doing, there will also have to be a public hearing. So anybody who still wants to voice their opinion about it would still be able to participate.
All right. Anything else? All right. Okay, good. Well, the other thing is, I don't know if you can reach them by tomorrow, but the consultants, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer questions anywhere along the way here. All right. The last item then is the new one that the earlier special finance committee meeting voted on just this evening. And this is resolution 68. Authorizing a budgetary transfer totaling $307,000, 265. This has no financial impact, and it is important in the management of several grants. It's paid for by the grants, so there's no financial impact. There's no creation of a permanent position. Everybody good with this one? Patrick.
Yeah, I'm a little confused on this one. So we're creating a position inside the newly formed housing department. Is that correct?
That's one way to look at it. The other way is that we're creating a position that's going to manage a couple of grants and that is paid for by those grants. There's also other monies that are being moved here. It's not like the whole $300,000 is for the position. That's a minor part of it. The other part is that this is making the grant monies available. So there's like our Empire grant, which is $1 million. So this is part of that. There's the LISC grant and so forth. So this is just making it possible for the city to actually manage and use these grants appropriately. Does that answer your question?
Now so we need somebody to run these grants. Don't we have a grants department that runs grants, and wouldn't they qualify to get the money for that? Wouldn't they qualify to get the two grants? If we have a grant person running, why do we need a new position created?
We already have the grants, and the grants department, we already approved overtime for them to deal with what they're dealing with. And these are specifically about housing. So that's why it's appropriate for these to be under the Director of Housing Initiatives.
But I thought we had a grants department that handled our grants, and this is a grant. So why aren't we letting them handle it?
Well, grants are managed in different departments. They're not only managed by Kristen and Ruth Ann. And these are specifically about housing, and the grants have money in them for administration. So the idea is to have somebody actually in the housing department work on this.
Why aren't we just making our grant department stronger, and by hiring someone in the grant department or making a full-time position there? Why are we creating a new one?
We don't want a full-time position. This is paid for by the grants themselves. Michelle?
So I just want to add, Patrick, when we voted on the budget and the preliminary budget last, for 2021, it had 2 full-time positions in it for this department. And then 2 people left the department. They hired one person and they still had to hire the next person. So it had actually been budgeted for.
All right. Anything else?
I think Patrick's trying to speak, but he's muted. So.
Oh, Patrick?
How many people will be in the grants department? How many people will be in the housing department now that this not new job, but different title, different moving around of money stuff happening here? Now that we got this, now how many jobs will be in the housing department?
2.
One
won't be 3?
No.
2
on our budget. 1 that is through the grant. So we're not creating a permanent position in the city administration.
So we have 2 jobs, two positions. The man that's there right now seems like a lovely man, and a new person coming in, correct? Not a third person? There won't be a half-time employee too?
Correct. No, just one other person to manage the grants.
Just one other person to manage the grants?
Yeah. For the life of the grants, which is 1 year. And those grants are probably not renewable, so.
And the reason that we're not putting them through our grants department is because we feel that it's beneficial for this person to work in the housing department?
Yes, because the grants are specifically about housing issues. And because the current grants department is working overtime.
That's what I'm saying. Why don't we help them out and give them another position?
Because we don't need to.
You said they're overworked.
Patrick, I believe the thing is that, and you can clarify with Kevin if you want to call him, but what I got out of that, this person is not the grants. The grant is what's going to pay for this position. It has nothing to do with grants. This person is going to be in here, is going to be doing title searches, legal service, et cetera, in the housing initiative, which that's going to free up Kevin to be able to do and concentrate on more on what he needs to do as the administrator. So that is why he needs, it was 2, if I got this right, it was budget for 2 part-timers. So basically taking 2 part-timers and making 1 full-time, right? So that's going to make 2 people in this department. And that person is going to be in charge of like doing title searches, legal services, all stuff that Kevin's doing now, which is taking him away from what he really should be concentrating on, right?
Which
so
is
the grants that we have from Lux, List, and EDP, that money is going to pay for this full-time position. It's going to pay for their salary, et cetera, et cetera. And again, these grants are only for 1 year. So that is why it's not going to cost the city anything, and it's already been budgeted. So after this year, then they would have to see if, in their budget, if they're going to, going to still be another full-time position in there, or it's going to go away. So that person is not handling the grants. That person is going to be handling title searches, legal services, et cetera, et cetera. And that'll matter. Yep.
So Rennie, actually, what are we voting on? The whole package?
Yeah.
Is this all included in one package?
Yeah, because
So
it's moving money. Yeah, because of the grants.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right. Anything else? Is that enough? All right. Thank you for the good discussions. A lot of good information passing back and forth. Appreciate that. Anybody have anything else to add at this point?
Have your coffee for tomorrow.
All right. In that case, we'll take a motion to adjourn. All right. Patrick, Michelle second, Tony second, Steve second, all in favor. All right, y'all. Yep. Have a good night. Sleep